Welcome everybody to episode 72 of Dork Tunes. So this week we have a very special guest, a lovely gentleman by the name of Nicolas. Nicolas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Nicolas de Ferran. I'm a composer from, you guessed it, Paris, France. I work in the video game industry and TV industry, mostly French TV shows. And I'm mostly known for scoring an indie game called They Are Billions, which was very popular a few years ago when it came out. That's it.
So tell me a little bit about you, because I know that a lot of times when I speak to composers, everybody's completely different in how they've kind of got to where you are today. So a lot of people, some people may have gone kind of the traditional route, as in they went to music or art college and kind of went on from there. Some people just kind of fell into it, How did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I think I come from the traditional way of studying music. I went to music college. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. I studied music in France as well prior to that. And but at first I wasn't pursuing a career as a composer. I was more thinking of becoming a piano player, like a session pianist.
Oh, okay.
And because for some reason the job of professional musician, to me it was to be a player, like a piano player, a guitar player, or whatever. And because I was influenced by that, because of the professional musicians that were around me, and for some reason I didn't really think of becoming a composer. Like, I don't know why, but it was not a career to pursue to me. I didn't think about it. And one day in 2009, I was I think 18. I scored a theater play, and it was kind of like a revelation. I was like, oh, this job as a composer it's amazing. That's what fulfilled me the most. And as I am a big video game nerd, I instantly thought that it would be super cool to be able to score games. And so from that point, it was, I did like some kind of career switch and stopped pursuing the piano player career and start thinking about composing.
Everybody has their first game, so I know that you worked on They Are Billions. How did that happen for you?
So the very first game that I scored was called Lords of Xulima, and I'm sorry, it's very hard to pronounce because it's a fantasy title, and with so, and you know what, I'm just going to write it in the chat for you. Lords of Xulima. Okay. And it's an old school RPG, like Western RPG, like kind of Baldur's Gates and Wasteland, that kind of thing. And I was very lucky because I started my career in like 2012, 2013, and it was the peak of the crowdfunding madness, when Kickstarter came along, and it was very, very, very popular. And we didn't have yet all the negative outcomes of crowdfunding, all the failed project and false promises. And so in that time, a lot of projects were funded, and it was easy, so to speak, as a composer, to find cool project to work on. And yeah, so this project was the first one I got. And actually, this company, this game studio, they happened to, after this game, to develop the Billions like 4 years later. And this first game was not a big success. Sorry, a big success, but it was enough to be able to start a new one who became They Are Billions. And They Are Billions were very, very successful. They sold, I think, 1.5 million copies. So it's kind of big for units.
Yeah. And do you find that for different projects that your approach is different for each one, as in you know, because of the scale and size and maybe the budget as well. I know that with They Are Billions, you had a 60-piece orchestra to work with. So that must have been amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny because we started the Billions with very low budget, but then we released the early access, and suddenly we had, I won't say we had a lot of money, but we had a bigger budget, you know, to work with and to finish the game. So I told the developers, hey guys, now that we have money, maybe we can, you know, go record all the music again, but with a live orchestra, because originally it was all virtual. And, you know, but with the success of the early access, I was like, hey, let's go record a live orchestra now, because I really wanted the music to be at the same level at the game as the game success, so to speak. Not to be as successful, but I wanted to provide you know, quality music to match the success of the game, you know, the numbers of players and things like that.
And obviously, I know from personal experience, I've released a game last year, and it's quite interesting to see something that you've been working on, you've known for such a long time, and kind of it goes out there and it's gone. You know, it's left the door. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
It's a bit stressful even, I would say, and you always have that. I mean, to me, it's always like, man, I wish I did that thing better, or I wish I could go back and, you know, change it a little bit. And it's weird.
You've done a lot of other stuff. You've worked a lot with Olivier Drivier, is that correct? You've done a lot of stuff like Vampyr and 1111 stories, memories retold.
True. Yeah. So I was a music editor for Olivier, which it's like a very technical job, and I was like a multi-hat assistant, so to speak. And we worked together on Vampyr, the Technomancer, Gridfall, A Plague Tale Innocence, 1111, Memories Retold. And my job was to basically make sure that the music was ready to be integrated into the game. So I would, you know, simple things like make loops, or you know, make a track longer, or take the beginning, put it at the end, or make a variation of this track. You know, that kind of stuff. I was really assisting him during the whole music production process.
And was it interesting for you? I know personally for me, Vampyr and Plague Tale, both absolutely phenomenal games, both phenomenal soundtracks, which I've got both on vinyl as of today. And where was I going with this? How did you find actually there you go. Kind of watching and working alongside Olivier, how was that different from the way that you work almost? You kind of sitting there going, that's really interesting. I would never thought of doing that. And you're kind of like, you know, comparing, contrasting.
Yeah, of course. I learned a lot of things by working with him. A lot of times I was, especially at the beginning, and I was much younger, I was, you know, sitting beside him and watching him work, and, you know, getting to know him and his process. And I learned so much. And it was very interesting as well, because those are all not AAA, but, you know, published games. They have a budget that goes over 5 million each. So it's different than working for indie games. It's not the same process. You don't have the same milestones. You have to deal with the publisher as well as the developers, and there's a lot of political elements into it. And it's very interesting to see the game production from that perspective. You know, it's like indie games, they are not really the same. You
can just do whatever you like, sort of thing.
Yeah, I know it's wilder.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was in the studio with Gareth Coker when he was recording Ori and Will o' the Wisps in London in their studios.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was one of the best days of my life. But it was so interesting to be able to sit there and watch, because they would sit on the, you know, in the studio room, and they'd have the score in front of them on paper, and they'd literally go through it, and they'd be changing like minute details every single way down the way.
Wow.
You know, and they would listen to the orchestra, who would say, not sure about this note, maybe it could be like a bit lower or a bit higher or a bit different or a bit longer. And they'd just organically change everything on the fly. It was so interesting to watch.
Yeah, we did that a little bit on There Are Billions. And I remember like we did some change in the dynamics for the bassoons at some point, because like second bassoon were a little bit lower than like in volume than the first one. So we kind of told him like, okay, first bassoon play mezzo forte and second bassoon play forte, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it happens all the time, you know, because it's always complicated to go from mock-up to like live orchestration, and you have to make adjustment on the fly, because there is the human element that comes into it, you know.
There was at one point where there was one of the brass players, and he just said like, this note that you've given us to do is almost impossible. It was like, can we change that, please?
Well, yeah, well, that's cool that they told him. Sometimes they don't, and they just like skip the note or play differently.
No, it was really interesting because they were quite vocal about kind of anything that they didn't feel that was quite right, and he was really receptive to it. You know, it was really interesting to watch, and it was really interesting in the fact that, you know, they started at 9 a.m. You know, they had a couple of breaks, they had a lunch, at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then they finished at 5:30 on the dot. You know, it was absolutely there is no way it's going over, because obviously then they would have to be paid more, and there was a budget. It was really interesting to see. Yeah.
When we recorded the soundtrack for The Billions, it was in Bratislava, and in Bratislava, the rules are, I don't know if they are unionized or not, but the rules are a little bit more loose. And at some point, the orchestra contractor told me, if you don't want to do a break, we don't do a break. We keep recording for 4 hours, no break. And I was like, no way, we do a break, because I know the musicians need it. So, but it's good that was it in London? Yeah, it was in London, right?
Yes, it was in Air Studios. So just near
such a beautiful place.
Honestly, it's stunning, really stunning. You know, and really easy to get to, actually, just FYI. But yeah, and apparently it's only like 20-minute walk from Abbey Road as well.
Yeah, it's next door. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really interesting. I think that was one of the days. What funny thing was for me was we went to the pub afterwards for a few drinks, and on the way down, it was like literally just across the road, about 50 yards. And on the way down, Gareth was like, "Oh yeah, so I'm scoring the new Halo Infinite." You know, I was like, "What?"
Just dropping some some news.
And again, it's, you know what it's like about not being able to talk about things that you're working on.
Yeah, of course. It's the worst, man.
And obviously I had to sit on the fact that I was, you know, involved in a way with Ori, and then he, you know, announced that, and I was like, great, that's more information I'm going to sit on, you know, because if I open my mouth, you know.
Yeah, well, between composer, we can say, you know, the secrets, just not too loud.
So you're doing your game music composer now. You've done other stuff as well, like film, and you said you're doing film, TV.
Yeah. So when I started working in the game industry, like parallel to that, I started to work in the TV industry in France as well. I did both of them like at the same time, and I was super lucky because I got to score some big French documentary films, you know, like similar to the one you can have on BBC in UK, for example, but for French TV channels.
Yeah.
And sorry, I was really lucky to like start with that directly. I didn't have to build my way up, so to speak. So it was an incredible luck. And I've been doing both of them at the same time for 8 years now.
Yeah, so you're still doing both.
Yeah.
Do you find that kind of when you're working on a game project versus working on something for TV, that your approach changes almost sometimes? Because obviously,
yeah, it's very different. first of all, when I work on a game, I am involved way earlier in the process. Like TV films, like I'm always at the end of the chain, so to
Mhm.
speak. Like, and so I mean, it makes a huge difference when you work on the game and you are here early. You can, absorb all the world of the game, the systems, the universe. You have time to develop your craft. For TV stuff, it's always on the rush. You have crazy deadlines in games too, but TV it's crazy. So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very different. And TV, you don't have the interactive music thing. So definitely a different process for sure.
Maybe you don't have the studio and everybody going to go in your ear.
True.
So for me, there's a soundtrack to the game coming out very shortly. It's Friday next week that I'm really looking forward to. Horizon Forbidden West. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the soundtrack for that with Joris, Niels, and obviously The Flight.
The Flight, yeah.
Fantastic. Are there any kind of soundtracks that are coming up that you think can't wait to hear that?
Well, Dying Light 2 actually, but it just came out,
Yeah.
and I didn't play the game, but I heard the soundtrack and I was blown away by the quality of the production, the composition itself, orchestration, the mix of electronics and orchestra. Yeah, I can't wait to try it in game, because I know it's amazing, like interactive music wise. I think,
Yeah. I had to stop playing the original because it was too terrifying.
Yeah, it happened to me when I played what was the game prior to Dying Light? It was Dead Island, I think.
Oh yes, yes.
And yeah, I couldn't play until the end. Like, it was too terrifying.
I used to play. I've played it through a couple of times now. It's Dead Space.
Oh yeah, amazing score.
Absolutely terrifying. At one point, my partner would come upstairs and go, "Are you playing that game again?" I'm like, "All right," because I'm just like, "Ah!"
Have you played Amnesia: The Dark Descent?
No.
No way.
Absolutely. I tried the demo. No, I didn't really. I was really silly. I closed the curtains and I put my headphones in and I started playing, and I was like, absolutely not for me.
And I remember I was sweating on my mouth and keyboard, like actual sweat. It was so tense, horrible. But great game.
Yeah, fantastic. So, dear me. I mean, yeah, there's been so many good, amazing soundtracks over the years, and it's what I've really liked over, because I've been doing this for 10 years maybe, and seeing it kind of getting more and more attention. It's insane. And one of the book quiz, I was talking to a friend last week, and I've actually written a letter into Edge magazine.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I've written a letter into them, which I've been dying to do for years, because what bugbear for me is a lot of the times you'll see reviews for games like Dying Light or anything, Horizon Forbidden West, and very rarely, or when they do, you will see a tiny piece of the whole review, which is like 2, 3, 4 pages, and there's a tiny, like maybe a couple of lines dedicated to the soundtrack, and it's just depressing, because I know from having a lot of friends who are composers and being kind of in the kind of company of that, how much work goes into stuff, because people, like, for example, I don't know, Austin works on Journey for 3 years, so that's a lot of time to spend with a game, and
of course,
to kind of see such a small amount written about you and your efforts and the work that you've done, it's just a little bit depressing to me.
Yeah, sure. That's why I think composer needs to push as much as they can, to do an amazing score, because it's so much part of the experience, and that
because if you take that score away, you may be left with a great game, but are you going to feel it as much?
Yeah, of course. And as they say, soundtrack is like 50% of the game experience, but it's like 2% of the budget. And it's kind of true with game reviews as well. Like it's 50% of the experience, but only 2 lines on the music.
Yeah, and it's funny because it can have such an effect on things. You know, I remember going to Game Music Connect many years ago, and Jason
Oh
Graves.
yeah, I went there. I went there as well. Yeah, 2 years I went there.
Yeah, me too. Did you see when Jason was on stage and he was talking about music that he's done, saying like just basically compose something every day, and it was so interesting to see him talk about the Tomb Raider and about how he approached things. And even me, who is game music obsessed, it was so interesting to go back then after his talk, or when he spoke, to go back to Tomb Raider and play, and then realize the minute kind of details that are in it.
Yeah.
Like, when he talked about kind of coming up to potentially fighting with an enemy and music changing and kind of getting a bit more raucous and big and bold, and then you have the fight itself and the music going like really loud, really fast with it, but then when you finish it just kind of quietens down again. It's just little details like that which are incredible.
Yeah, and I think and Jason does it very well. It's the music is used as a gameplay element and not just as an illustrative background track. It's an actual part of the game, of the gameplay, and that's what makes great game music, I think.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little here. So
oh my god.
Over the last, say, 10 years, what score have you heard and gone, wow?
You know what, I'm going to answer something maybe you're not expecting, but Undertale was to me. And have you played Undertale? It's so there's no real interactive music or anything, and it's chip tunes, but it is so well done. Like each little situations are perfectly scored, and the rhythm, the flow of how the soundtrack comes together. It's very, very well done, and even though there is no technical system behind the music, no interactive music or anything, or no orchestra or anything, it's as you say, it's as you said about Tomb Raider, it's the little details everywhere, the rhythm, the right timing. And when I played the game, it was instantly it was love at first sight for me, because it was so well done. Like it's the rhythm, the flow, the timing, it was perfect. So to me, Undertale was a big revelation, not revelation, but a big wow.
Yeah, I think one of them that I've really enjoyed recently has been the soundtrack for Firewatch by Chris Remo.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
It's very well done.
Yeah, it's really, really gentle and really kind of evocative and just gorgeous. But it's, I think
super well done.
Probably my favorite would be Everybody's Gone to the Rapture with Jessica. I mean, you don't for 5 years straight, it was my top played album on Spotify.
Really?
Only just recently taken over by Ori and the Will-O-Wisps.
Yeah, so good. Well, it's funny because you said the last 10 years, and I think like the last 10 years have seen a huge boost in terms of creativity in game music because of the indie boom that happened in 2010. And from 2010 to now, it has been just rockets, so many good things, so many good soundtracks.
And it's really nice to be able to see that, from that, obviously we were talking before we were recording about vinyl, that's become such a big thing now in video game soundtracks. It's obscene, you really have to, if something is announced, you really have to buy it, or when it's announced, otherwise you pretty much aren't going to get it. which is
Yeah, that's true.
crazy.
Yeah. That's true, but it's good because it's a source of revenue for composers as well.
Definitely.
And it's a way to show support, and now they make such like black screen records. They make such beautiful vinyls and nice covers and everything. It's a nice object to have.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned to you earlier, I got the soundtrack for A Plague Tale this morning, and it's the actual record. It's so heavy and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's really funny because I mentioned on a TikTok earlier that because I now do TikToks about video game music vinyl, which is my thing. So there's not many people that do that, and I said in that one earlier that it's weird, and I know that there's the plague, the rats, etc. Actually, when you look at the record, it looks like an infection coming from the inside out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really strange. It's fantastically done. It's absolutely stunning. So I spun it a little bit earlier on today, but that's going to be my record for tonight.
Nice dream.
Saturday night, sat in, playing my records, having a few glasses of wine. You can tell I'm getting old.
Well, it's a great soundtrack.
So final question. I know that you've got lots of things that you're working on. Hopefully we can hear something about that in the very near future.
Yeah, so unfortunately I cannot reveal anything at this point, but I have 4 games coming out in 2022.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. All indie games, but really cool projects. And so it's coming out. I have 2 games that are going to come out on Nintendo Switch and 2 on PC. So look out for that. Unfortunately I cannot say what it is, but
really quickly, how do you find kind of working on 4 different titles? Because that's a lot of plates to spin.
Yeah, especially with a baby. But I just do it, man. It's funny because I'm used to take a lot of different projects at the same time, and I've been doing that for 8 years professionally, and never once I've been late on a deadline, like never ever. So I don't know how I do it, but I just
because it all sounds so different, and you're like, right, I'm going to sit down and do this one on Monday, this one on Tuesday, this one on Wednesday, and this one on Thursday, and then Friday I'm going to have off.
Kind of, and I think it's good for a composer to have kind of different personalities, schizophrenic personality. So you can switch your focus and switch as you said it's very, very different. All those games are the soundtracks that I'm working on. It's going to be way different than what I did before, and all of them, and I have to be kind of another person when I open a new Cubase sessions, it's time management. It can be definitely tricky, and I don't know how. I don't have any advice for that actually. I just my only advice it's no, but that's right. Just do it. You have something to do. You do it, and whatever it takes. If you have to work late or rush things, or I don't know, but just need to happen.
Well, hopefully we can hear something from those soon. But just want to say a massive thank you for taking time out today to speak with me. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about game music with fans, fans of game music.
Definitely. So thank you, everybody. That was episode 72. We will see you very soon for a very special episode. More on that soon.